Somewhere beneath the cold, crushing weight of the Pacific Ocean, in the gray silence 400 meters below the surface, something is moving, slowly, painfully. It stretches legs as long as a grown man's arms across the seafloor, 10 of them, jointed and trembling, dragging a body barely the size of a basketball between them. It is enormous. It is ancient. And it is, without question, one of the most unfortunate things to have ever been born. This is the Japanese giant spider crab, the largest arthropod on Earth. Legs span up to 4 meters, a lifespan that may stretch a century. You would think such a creature so vast, so old, would command the ocean. You would be wrong. What no one tells you is this: size is not armor. Age is not wisdom. And in the deep Pacific, being the biggest thing in the room means almost nothing when the room is trying to kill you every single moment of your existence. The giant spider crab does not rule the ocean. It simply endures it, day after day, year after year, in a life so relentlessly hostile that survival itself feels like a punishment. There is no gentle beginning for a giant spider crab. No warmth, no shelter, no mother waiting nearby. A single female can carry up to 1.5 million eggs beneath her abdomen, and yet, of those millions, only a handful will survive long enough to grow, not because they are weak, but because the ocean does not allow weakness to exist, even for a single hour. The eggs hatch into larvae so tiny they are nearly invisible, translucent, fragile specks spinning in a cold, current-torn world. They drift in the open water column, which is perhaps the most dangerous address in all of nature. Up here, far from the seafloor where their parents roam, there is nothing to hide behind. Nothing to cling to. Everything eats them. Jellyfish, small fish, filter feeders, plankton-hunting predators of every shape. The odds of surviving those first weeks as larvae are so brutally low that scientists estimate fewer than 1 in a million will ever reach adulthood. And so the ocean spends these newborns the way a gambler spends cheap chips carelessly, in enormous quantities, because that is the only math that has ever worked. Not love, not protection. Just numbers and loss, and more loss. Even those who survive the larval stage face a body that is trying to betray them. To grow, a spider crab must molt shed its entire exoskeleton and emerge raw, soft, and completely unprotected. For hours, sometimes days, this creature, which will one day span 4 meters, sits defenseless on the ocean floor. It cannot run. It cannot fight. It can only wait and hope that nothing finds it first. It almost always does. There is no mother to teach a spider crab anything. There is no lesson, no guidance, no inherited knowledge passed from one generation to the next. From the moment of hatching, each larva is entirely alone, and it must figure out how to exist in one of the most hostile environments on the planet through nothing but instinct, and, more often than not, lethal mistake. As they grow and migrate toward the seafloor, young spider crabs must learn to forage, but the seafloor is not generous. They pick through sediment and rock for algae, dead organic matter, clams, sea urchins, small worms. Every meal requires effort. Every movement risks drawing attention. The young crab has poor eyesight. It navigates largely by chemical signal and touch. Fumbling across terrain, it cannot clearly see toward food. It cannot clearly locate, while predators above and around it can see just fine. To compensate, spider crabs engage in a behavior that is equal parts ingenious and heartbreaking. They decorate themselves. They attach sponges, algae, and debris to the hooked hairs on their shells, a camouflage constructed piece by piece, an act of concealment that takes hours. It is one of the only tools they have. And when they molt, they lose every piece of it. They must begin again, naked and visible, rebuilding their disguise while the ocean watches. They also learn if learning is even the right word to congregate. In certain seasons, giant spider crabs gather in their thousands at specific sites along the Japanese coast to molt together. Safety in numbers, perhaps. But a congregation of soft, defenseless crabs is also a buffet for anything large enough to take advantage. Safety and danger here wear the same face. The adult giant spider crab lives in the deep waters off the coast of Japan, primarily in the Pacific Ocean, at depths between 150 and 400 meters, where the water is cold, dark, and utterly unforgiving. This is not a refuge. It is simply the place where the pressure from above and below happens to be survivable. For now. Its legs, 8 for walking, 2 modified as claws, are its greatest asset and its greatest burden. They are extraordinarily fragile. A spider crab missing 1 or 2 legs is not unusual. It is the norm. They lose them to predators, to accidents on rocky terrain, to the violence of molting. Regeneration is possible, but slow. For months, a crab may navigate an uneven seafloor with a mismatched set of limbs, compensating awkwardly, moving more slowly than it already does. And it moves slowly. Everything about the giant spider crab is slow. Its metabolism is sluggish. Its reflexes are sluggish. In a world where speed can mean survival, the spider crab has traded velocity for longevity, and that trade costs it, constantly. It cannot chase prey. It cannot flee from most threats. It can only scan the seafloor with poor vision, pick up chemical traces with its antenna, and hope that whatever it finds first is dead enough to eat, and that whatever finds it first is not hungry. Even eating is a labor. Their claws, while impressive to look at, are not powerful tools of predation. They are patient tools, designed to pry open shells, crack sea urchins, pull apart carrion. Each meal is an excavation. Each day is a slow accumulation of tiny efforts that add up to just enough energy to keep existing, nothing more. There are moments in a spider crab's life where the fragile line between existence and erasure becomes impossible to ignore. The molting season is one of them. Twice a year, driven by an internal biological imperative they have no say in, giant spider crabs migrate upward toward shallower waters to shed their shells in aggregations that can number in the tens of thousands. This journey alone is dangerous. Shallower water means different, more active predators, stronger currents, and conditions a deep-sea creature is not built to handle easily. Once they arrive and begin to molt, the horror escalates. Emerging from their old shell takes hours of exhausting effort. The crab must pull each of its 10 legs free from their individual casings, one by one, without breaking them. Then it lies exposed. Its new shell will take days to harden. In that time, sharks and octopuses move through the congregations like shadows, taking what they want. The spider crab cannot run. It can barely move. It simply has to outlast the hours, and some do not. Beyond molting, human fishing presents perhaps the most sudden and absolute danger. Giant spider crabs are caught in trawl nets, dragged across the seafloor, a method of fishing that captures indiscriminately. Many crabs hauled to the surface die from the violent pressure change alone. Others are kept for consumption. Others are thrown back injured. The ones returned to the deep carry damage they will spend months or years recovering from if they recover at all. And the ocean itself is changing. Warming waters are altering the chemistry of the deep. The very environment these crabs evolved over millions of years to inhabit is shifting beneath them. It is a threat they have no instinct to recognize, no behavior to counter, and no escape from. There is the painful irony at the center of the giant spider crab's existence. It is necessary. Not incidentally, not superficially, but structurally necessary to the health of the deep Pacific seafloor ecosystem. As a scavenger, it is one of the ocean's great recyclers, breaking down dead organic material and returning nutrients to the sediment. Without creatures like it, the seafloor would accumulate biological waste faster than it could be processed, suffocating the delicate balance of deep-sea life below. It does this work slow, unglamorous, vital day after day, in the dark, without recognition of any kind. It asks nothing of the ecosystem in return, because ecosystems do not work that way. Nature does not reward service. It does not compensate sacrifice. The spider crab does what it does because evolution shaped it to do it, and evolution does not offer comfort. If the giant spider crab disappeared, the Pacific seafloor would change. The cascading effects on other species, the species that depend on the sediment it turns, the microorganisms it feeds, the niche it occupies in the food web would be real and measurable. And yet the ocean offers this creature nothing in return. No protection, no preference, no mercy. It plays its role and suffers its life, with no distinction made between the two. The giant spider crab is not yet classified as endangered, a fact that is less reassuring than it sounds. Their populations have declined in many areas near the Japanese coast, where commercial fishing pressure has been sustained for decades. The same slow metabolism that allows them to live a century also makes recovery from population loss agonizingly slow. A species can decline for generations before the numbers trigger formal alarm. Japan has implemented some protective measures, seasonal fishing bans in certain regions during molting season, size restrictions on catches. These are meaningful. They are also partial and imperfect, and the vast, unmonitored stretches of the open Pacific floor remain outside any practical protection framework. The question of whether humans should intervene more aggressively, more consistently, is one that does not have a clean answer. There are those who argue that deep-sea species like the spider crab are resilient precisely because they are hidden from us, that the best human action is restraint. Others point to fishing data and temperature trend lines, and argue that restraint without active management is simply a polite name for neglect. Both positions have weight. Neither position helps the crab molt in safety, or survive the trawl net, or adapt to warming water it has not evolved to handle. The debate continues in conference rooms and scientific papers, while the crabs continue, as they always have, simply trying to get through another day. The giant spider crab exists almost entirely in the waters surrounding the Japanese archipelago in the Pacific Ocean and the Philippine Sea, concentrated most densely along the southern coasts of Honshu and in Suruga Bay. They have been found as far south as Taiwan and as far north as the Sea of Japan, but their heart, their greatest population, their ancestral territory is Japanese. It is a range that sounds stable on a map. In reality, it is a range that has contracted. Historical records and fishing data suggest that spider crabs were once far more abundant across a wider stretch of coastal Japan than they are today. The places they used to congregate have thinned. The aggregations still exist, but they are not what they were. The deep water they inhabit, that 150 to 400 meter band of cold, dark Pacific, is not a place that feels like a home in any sense the word usually implies. There is no sunlight below 200 meters. The pressure is immense. The temperature hovers just above freezing year-round. The currents shift the terrain unpredictably. This is not a sanctuary. It is a slightly less lethal version of everywhere else, and even that is slowly becoming less true as ocean chemistry shifts, as temperatures creep downward into depths they were not supposed to reach, as the ancient cold that these crabs were built for becomes something slightly, persistently, undeniably different. The giant spider crab has been on this planet for millions of years, long before Japan was Japan, long before any human hand ever touched the Pacific floor. It watched in its slow, chemical, unseeing way epochs pass overhead. It outlasted ice ages. It continued through mass extinction events that rewrote the map of life on Earth. It is, in its quiet, grinding way, one of the most durable forms of animal existence ever to have crawled across a rock. And it has never, not once, been safe. That is the truth that stays with you, if you let it. Not that this creature is extraordinary, though it is. Not that it deserves our pity, though it compels it. But that for 100 million years, generation after generation of giant spider crabs has hatched into terror, drifted through death, sunk to the cold floor, decorated itself with sponges to avoid being seen, grown slowly and broken often, molted in agony, and gone back to picking through sediment in the dark and called that a life. No arc of triumph, no moment of mastery, just the relentless, unrewarded work of continuing to exist in a world that was never built to accommodate it, only to use it, pressure it, eat it, and move on. The ocean is 400 meters deep in some of the places it roams, and it is 400 meters deep in its indifference. The giant spider crab does not know it is remarkable. It does not know its legs span the length of a small car. It does not know that somewhere above it, in a world of air and light and noise, humans occasionally remark upon its strangeness, and then forget about it entirely. It only knows the cold, the dark, the next meal somewhere in the sediment ahead, the slow, relentless forward motion of a creature that has never been given a choice about whether to keep going. It keeps going anyway. That is not a triumph. It is simply the only thing left to do.